Maplewood Lane, a tranquil suburban haven, where every lawn was manicured, every picket fence painted white, and every household harbored secrets. Among these seemingly perfect homes lived the Millers and the Coopers. At first glance, they were just ordinary neighbors, exchanging pleasantries across the fence. But behind closed doors, their lives were entangled in ways that no one could imagine. This is the story of Eleanor Cooper and James Miller, two souls drawn together by desire, secrets, and the forbidden. Eleanor Cooper, a 34-year-old mother of two, had always felt a void in her marriage to Frank. She often found herself gazing wistfully out of the kitchen window, where she could see James Miller working in his garden. James, a 38-year-old architect with a charming smile and kind eyes, was married to Patricia, a woman whose social life often took her away from home. One sunny afternoon, Eleanor's car broke down just as she was about to pick up her kids from school. Spotting her frustration, James approached with his usual easy charm. "Need a hand?" he asked, his voice warm. Their eyes met for the first time, and Eleanor felt a jolt of something she hadn't experienced in years: connection. What began as innocent chats over the fence soon evolved into long conversations. Eleanor would share her frustrations about Frank's neglect, while James spoke of Patricia's growing distance. Each story revealed cracks in their seemingly perfect lives. "Do you ever feel invisible?" Eleanor asked one evening, her voice barely above a whisper. James looked at her, his expression softening. "Every day," he replied. They began meeting more often, a shared coffee here, a quiet walk there. Their bond grew deeper, but they both knew they were treading dangerous ground. One rainy evening, James knocked on Eleanor's door, drenched and visibly upset. "Patricia's leaving for a month, again," he said. "It's like I'm not even part of her world anymore." Eleanor invited him in, handing him a towel. As he dried off, their conversation turned raw and unguarded. "You deserve better," Eleanor said, her voice trembling. "Someone who sees you, who values you." James's eyes searched hers. "And you?" he asked. "Do you have that?" The silence that followed spoke volumes. In that charged moment, James reached for her hand, and Eleanor didn't pull away. Their first kiss was hesitant, filled with both passion and guilt. Their affair blossomed in secret. Every stolen glance, every clandestine meeting, was thrilling yet fraught with tension. They knew the stakes but couldn't stay away from each other. "This isn't just lust," James said one evening as they sat in his car at the edge of town. "I've never felt this alive." Eleanor nodded, tears in her eyes. "Me neither. But what are we doing, James? How does this end?" Their idyllic bubble burst one evening when Frank, noticing Eleanor's growing detachment, began asking questions. Meanwhile, Patricia returned from her trip earlier than expected, sensing that something was amiss. Patricia found a message on James's phone, a text from Eleanor that read, "I can't stop thinking about you." Confronting James, Patricia's fury shook the walls of their home. "How could you do this to me?" she screamed. "To us." Meanwhile, Frank overheard Eleanor on a hushed phone call with James. Cornering her, he demanded answers. The truth unraveled like a wildfire, consuming both families. Accusations flew, tears were shed, and the once quiet neighborhood buzzed with whispers of scandal. James and Eleanor's affair was out in the open. Patricia and Frank demanded that they ended immediately, but the connection between them was undeniable. "We can't go back to pretending," Eleanor said. "Not after everything." "Then what do we do?" James asked, his voice heavy with anguish. They decided to face the consequences together. Eleanor filed for divorce, despite Frank's attempts to reconcile. James moved out, leaving Patricia devastated but resolute in her decision to end their marriage. Months passed, and the dust began to settle. James and Eleanor, no longer bound by secrecy, started building a life together. Their love, tested by fire, grew stronger with each passing day. But their journey wasn't without challenges. The judgment of neighbors, the pain of their children, and their own lingering guilt often cast shadows over their happiness. Do you regret it? Eleanor asked one evening as they sat on their new porch, watching the sun set. James took her hand in his. Not for a second, he said. You're worth everything. Life on Maplewood Lane would never be the same. The Millers and the Coopers had rewritten the rules of their lives, paying a heavy price for their choices. Yet, amidst the chaos, James and Eleanor found something rare and beautiful. A love that defied expectations, survived scandal, and proved that even in the most unlikely circumstances, the heart knows what it wants. Their story served as a cautionary tale for some and an inspiration for others, but for James and Eleanor, it was simply their truth. Messy, imperfect, and real.